One picture, two neighbors, same street, same summer, same July heat, same size pool in the backyard. One of them spends 3 to 4 hours every weekend on pool maintenance, testing, adjusting, shocking, treating, driving to the pool store, coming back, adding more product, waiting, testing again. The water is acceptable most of the time, cloudy after parties, green twice a summer, a recurring cycle of problem and treatment that consumes weekend time and pool store receipts in roughly equal measure. The other neighbor spends 20 minutes a week on their pool. 1-2 minutes every morning with a test strip. 15 minutes on Saturday that covers testing, adjusting, brushing, and checking the filter. The water is clear every single day. Not clear most of the time. Every day, clear enough to see the main drain from the surface. Soft on the skin. No smell. No eye irritation. No green pools. No emergency pool store runs. No service tech showing up every week. Same pool. Same summer. Same chemistry available to both of them. One spends 3 to 4 hours a week and fights the water constantly. The other spends 20 minutes and never fights it at all. 1. The difference is not effort. It is not budget. It is not a special product or a professional secret. It is a system. A specific sequence of actions done at the right time, in the right order that keeps the conditions for pool problems from ever forming. And the system takes 20 minutes a week. 90% of pool owners are the first neighbor. They are reactive. They treat problems after they appear and spend their time and money managing symptoms of an underlying system that is not running correctly. 1. By the end of this video, you will have the complete 20-minute system. Every step, every sequence, every timing detail that turns you into the second neighbor permanently, not for this summer. For every summer, you own a pool. Before the system, you need to understand why the conventional approach to pool maintenance is simultaneously more time-consuming and less effective than the 20-minute method. Because without understanding why the conventional approach fails, the 20-minute system looks too simple to work. The conventional pool maintenance approach is reactive by design. 1. Test when the water looks off. Add product when the test shows a problem. Drive to the pool store when the product does not fix it. Call the service tech when the pool store visit does not fix it. This approach has two built-in inefficiencies that compound each other throughout the summer. The first inefficiency is timing. Chemistry problems caught early are 2-minute corrections. Chemistry problems caught late are multi-hour, multi-product, multi-day recovery processes. A free chlorine reading of 1.5 parts per million on Tuesday morning is a 30-ounce bleach addition Tuesday evening. 1. The same situation caught on Saturday after the water has gone cloudy is a shock treatment, a clarifier, extended pump runtime, and 3 days of recovery. The chemistry correction is the same. The timing of the discovery is what converts a 2-minute task into a 3-hour weekend project. The second inefficiency is sequence. Adding chlorine before checking pH, shocking in the afternoon instead of at dusk, correcting alkalinity after pH instead of before. Every sequence error reduces the effectiveness of the chemistry being added, which means more product is needed to achieve the same result, which means more time is spent adding, waiting, and retesting. Poor sequencing does not just waste money, it wastes time because ineffective chemistry that needs to be repeated takes more time than effective chemistry applied correctly once. The 20-minute system eliminates both inefficiencies. It catches chemistry problems when they are 2-minute corrections, not 3-hour recoveries. And it enforces the correct sequence every time. So the chemistry applied works at full effectiveness on the first application. Less product, less time, better water. That is what the system produces. The 20-minute weekly routine runs easily because of work done once at the beginning of the season that most pool owners skip entirely. Skip the foundation and the weekly routine requires more adjustments, more corrections, and more time. Do the foundation correctly and the routine runs in 20 minutes because the chemistry is stable enough that most weeks require only minor tweaks. 1 Foundation Step 1. Establish the borate buffer. Borax from the laundry aisle. 20 pounds for a 10,000-gallon pool, 30 pounds for a 15,000-gallon pool, 40 pounds for a 20,000-gallon pool. Add with the pump running, broadcast across the surface, correct pH afterward with muriatic acid to bring it to 7.4 to 7.6. Retest the following morning. The borate buffer system holds pH stable through aeration, swimmer load, and heat all summer. It is the single most impactful thing you can do at the start of the season to reduce the number of weekly pH corrections required. 1 Hotel pools use this system. Pools with established borates resist the pH swings that turn minor chemistry variations into visible water problems. Foundation Step 2. Set cyanuric acid correctly. Test with a drop kit, not a strip. Target 30 to 50 parts per million. Add cyanuric acid granules through the skimmer with the pump running. If the level is below 30, it dissolves slowly over 24 to 48 hours, so add your calculated dose and retest before adding more. 1 CYA below 30 means your chlorine is being destroyed by UV faster than you can add it, which means the weekly routine requires constant chlorine additions to keep up with a loss rate that correct stabilizer would prevent. Foundation Step 3. Balance alkalinity to 80 to 120 parts per million with baking soda from the grocery store. With alkalinity set correctly as a buffer, pH corrections made during the weekly routine hold instead of drifting back within hours. Setting alkalinity correctly at the start of the season reduces the pH correction frequency that the weekly routine requires. 1 Foundation Step 4. Clean the filter thoroughly before the season starts. A filter entering summer clean runs more efficiently, requires fewer mid-season cleanings, and provides better particle removal that keeps water visibly clearer between weekly sessions. A cartridge filter soaked overnight in diluted filter cleaner at the start of the season removes oil fouling from the previous season and enters summer at full filtration capacity. 1. Do these 4 things once at the start of the season, and the weekly routine becomes genuinely 20 minutes because the chemistry is stable. The stabilizer is protecting your chlorine from UV, and the filter is working at full capacity. Skip any of them, and the weekly routine takes longer because you are compensating for instability that the foundation would have prevented. The weekly session is 20 minutes because the daily 2-minute check handles everything that would otherwise accumulate into a larger problem requiring more time to fix on the weekend. 1 Without the daily check. Problems that could have been caught on Tuesday as 2-minute corrections are found on Saturday as 30-minute or hour-long corrections. The weekly session stays 20 minutes because the daily check catches the small drifts before they become large ones. The daily check has 2 components and nothing else: free chlorine and pH. That is it. A test strip dipped in the pool at elbow depth, away from the returns and skimmer. Read in natural light while you are still holding your first coffee of the morning. 2 minutes every day in July without exception. 1 Free chlorine below 2 parts per million. Mental note to add bleach at dusk. That is the entire response, not an immediate addition, not a trip to the pool store. 30 ounces of bleach added at dusk when UV cannot destroy it before it works. The problem is solved before it becomes visible. pH above 7.6. Mental note to add a small muriatic acid dose at dusk with the pump running. The borate buffer keeps this from happening frequently. When it does happen, the correction is small because the buffer prevented it from drifting far. pH below 7.4. Mental note to add a small amount of borax. 1 Again. The buffer reduces the frequency of this correction significantly. That is the daily check. 2 parameters, 2 minutes. 3 possible responses, each of which takes less than 5 minutes to execute at dusk. The pool that gets a daily 2-minute check in July never develops the problems that require a 3-hour Saturday recovery session. Not because the chemistry is different, because problems are caught at the size where they are 2-minute fixes instead of 3-hour projects. I put it all together in a 39-page guide called the Pool Carter Playbook, From Green to Crystal Clear. 1. Normally $67. Right now, just $29.99. It covers the complete grocery store method with exact doses for every application, the full slam process for green pools, the printable weekly routine, and the 5 numbers that run your entire pool all season. I went from spending $600 a season to under $150, and my water has never looked better. The link is below this video. 7-day refund guarantee, instant PDF download. Let's finish the system. This is the session 1 day a week, same day every week, 20 minutes. Every step matters, the sequence matters. 1. Do not reorder the steps, because the sequence is not arbitrary. It reflects the chemistry dependency between each correction and the next one. Minutes 1 and 2. Full panel test. Free chlorine, pH, total alkalinity, cyanuric acid, calcium hardness, drop test kit for accuracy, test strip for the quick daily check, drop kit for the weekly full panel, write all 5 numbers down. Do not do anything else until you have all 5 numbers in front of you. The correction decisions for the next 15 minutes depend on accurate baseline readings. 1 minutes 3 and 4. Evaluate and calculate corrections. Look at the 5 numbers. Alkalinity out of range. Calculate the baking soda dose needed. pH out of range. Calculate the muriatic acid or borax dose needed. Chlorine low. Calculate the bleach dose needed. Cyanuric acid out of range. Determine whether an addition or a dilution is needed. Calcium hardness out of range. Add to the list or note that it requires a water change discussion. Write the corrections needed. Do not add anything yet. Minutes 5 and 6. Brush the pool. 1. This step comes before chemical additions, and most owners skip it or put it last. Brushing before chemical additions matters for 2 reasons. First, brushing breaks up any early-stage biological growth on pool surfaces and sends those cells into the water column where your filter and elevated chlorine can handle them. Second, brushing improves water circulation in dead zones, corners, steps, and wall niches, which improves the distribution of chemicals added in the steps that follow. 3 minutes of brushing every surface changes the result of the chemical additions that follow it. 1 minute 7 and 8. Empty all baskets. Skimmer basket and pump basket. A full skimmer basket restricts flow to the pump. A full pump basket reduces the pump's ability to move water efficiently. Both conditions reduce circulation and filtration effectiveness for the entire week that follows. 2 minutes to empty both baskets changes the water turnover rate for the next 7 days. Minutes 9 and 10. Check filter pressure. Normal operating range is on the gauge or in your manual. 8 to 10 pounds per square inch above normal means it is time to clean. Backwash a sand filter right now. One note: a cartridge filter cleaning for after the session, so it has time to dry before reinstallation if needed. A filter running at correct pressure turns the water over completely twice a day. A filter running at high pressure may turn it over less than once. The pressure check takes 60 seconds and tells you whether the filtration system is doing its job. Minutes 11 through 15. Add corrections in sequence. Alkalinity first if it needs adjustment. Add baking soda with the pump running broadcast across the surface. One note that alkalinity corrections need 2 to 4 hours to register fully, so if alkalinity was the only thing out of range, you may retest later rather than proceeding with pH correction immediately based on an unstabilized reading. If alkalinity is in range, proceed to pH. Add muriatic acid diluted in a bucket of pool water to bring pH to 7.4 to 7.6 if it is high. Add borax if it is low. Add with the pump running. Pour acid corrections at the deep end away from the skimmer and lights. After pH is addressed, note the chlorine correction needed for dusk. 1. Do not add chlorine now. If you are doing the weekly session in the morning, add it this evening at dusk when UV cannot destroy it before it circulates. Minutes 16 through 20, check the water level and inspect the equipment pad quickly. Water level should be halfway up the skimmer opening, below the midpoint, and the pump starts pulling air. A pump running dry warp seals and burns the motor. The repair runs $1,500 to $2,500. Topping off the pool with a garden hose takes 5 minutes and costs nothing. Check the water level every single week without exception. 1 equipment pad inspection takes 60 seconds. Listen for unusual sounds from the pump and filter. Check for drips or moisture under fittings. Look at the pressure gauge. Nothing unusual means everything is running correctly. Something unusual gets investigated before it becomes a failure. The 20-minute session covers everything except the chlorine addition, which happens at dusk as a separate action. This is not an oversight. It is intentional. Chlorine added in the morning under summer sun loses effectiveness to UV before it can do its full job. 1 chlorine added at dusk works through the night without UV destruction and with 8+ hours of pump circulation to distribute it evenly. The dusk addition takes 2 minutes. Pour the calculated bleach dose around the perimeter of the pool away from the skimmer. Confirm the pump is running. That is the entire action. 2 minutes at dusk 5 to 7 days a week, depending on the heat and bather load, keeps free chlorine in the 2 to 4 parts per million range that prevents every problem the system is designed to prevent. Shock at dusk once a week if the week included heavy swimmer use. 1-2 gallons of 6% bleach per 10,000 gallons for a standard post-use shock. After a party or a heavy use day with significant bather load, double the dose, run the pump through the night, test at dawn if chlorine is near 0 by morning, the organic load was heavy enough to consume the full dose, and a repeat shock the following evening handles the remainder. 2 consecutive Dusk shocks clear post-party water faster and more completely than any single-dose daytime treatment. The 20-minute routine is not identical from May through September. 1 Summer heat, bather load, and UV intensity all change across the season, and the routine adjusts with them. Knowing the adjustments prevents the common mistake of running a July routine in May or a May routine in July and getting confused when the results differ. In May and early June, water temperature is lower, UV is less intense, and bather load is typically light. The daily 2-minute check can be reduced to every other day without significant risk. The weekly session covers everything needed. Pump run time of 7 to 8 hours is adequate for most pools at these temperatures. 1 Chemical consumption is lower, and additions are smaller and less frequent. In peak July and August, everything changes. Daily 2-minute check becomes non-negotiable, 7 days a week, every week. Pump run time increases to 10 to 12 hours minimum. Chemical consumption increases as UV works harder on chlorine, and bather load spikes on weekends. The weekly session may require slightly larger corrections than earlier in the season because the forces acting against chemistry stability are at their peak. 1. The session is still 20 minutes because the daily checks caught everything before it drifted far. But the corrections within those 20 minutes may be larger. In September, temperatures begin dropping and bather load typically decreases. Pump run time can reduce gradually. Daily checks can reduce to every other day as temperatures consistently drop below 85 degrees. The routine begins winding toward the closing process that will prepare the pool for winter. These seasonal adjustments are not complicated. They follow temperature and use. 1 More heat and more swimmers mean more attention and more chemistry. Less heat and fewer swimmers mean less of both. The system scales naturally with the season once you understand what drives chlorine consumption and pH drift. Pool owners who have been spending 3 hours a week on maintenance and switch to this system consistently report the same experience in the first 2 weeks. The 20-minute session feels incomplete. They finish the checklist and look around expecting more to do and find nothing. The pool looks right, the numbers are right, there is simply nothing left to address. 1. That feeling of incompleteness is the absence of the reactive work that consumed the previous 3 hours, no emergency treatment for the problem that showed up since the last session, no pool store trip for the product that will fix what appeared over the weekend, no extended troubleshooting session trying to figure out why the water went off again. The 20 minutes covered everything because the daily check caught everything small before it became big, and the weekly session corrected the small things before they needed larger interventions. 3 things make this feel sustainable rather than like a discipline that requires constant willpower to maintain. The first is the test kit, a drop test kit that gives accurate numbers, removes the guesswork that makes pool maintenance feel complicated. When you know exactly what the number is and exactly what dose corrects it, the decision is simple and the action is fast. Guesswork adds time and anxiety. Accurate numbers eliminate both. The second is the grocery store method. Bleach, baking soda, borax, and muriatic acid cost a fraction of specialty pool products. 1. When the cost per correction is low. Making a correction feels like a minor action rather than a significant expenditure. Owners who use grocery store chemistry correct small problems immediately because the cost is trivial. Owners using pool store specialty products sometimes wait and see because the product cost makes each addition feel like a larger decision. Waiting and seeing turns small problems into large ones. The third is the borate buffer. A pool with established borates requires fewer pH corrections per week. Fewer corrections mean fewer steps in the weekly session. 1 Fewer steps mean the session finishes faster. The borate setup is a one-time investment that pays back in time saved at every single weekly session for the rest of the season. Go back to the 2 neighbors at the beginning of this video, the one spending 3 to 4 hours a week and fighting the water constantly. The one spending 20 minutes and never fighting it at all. The water quality difference is real and visible. Anyone who has swum in both pools on the same July afternoon knows immediately which one is being maintained correctly. 1. But the more interesting difference is not the water. It is the relationship each owner has with their pool. The first neighbor thinks of their pool as a maintenance burden, something that requires constant attention and expense and produces acceptable results when it is cooperating and expensive problems when it is not. The pool owns their weekends in summer instead of giving them back. The second neighbor thinks of their pool as something they swim in. 20 minutes of easy maintenance on Saturday morning. Clear water every afternoon. Nothing to fix because nothing broke. The pool exists as a place to be in, not a problem to manage. That relationship with a pool is what this system produces, and it is entirely available to every pool owner willing to spend 20 minutes learning the sequence instead of 3 hours reacting to the results of not knowing it. The 20-minute pool owner is not a chemistry expert. They do not enjoy maintenance. They simply have the system, run it consistently, and spend the time they saved swimming instead of treating. What if this is the summer? You make the switch from reactive to proactive, from 3 hours to 20 minutes, from pool store dependency to grocery store independence? Drop it in the comments. What has your weekly maintenance been costing you in time and money? And what does 20 minutes a week sound like from where you are standing right now? Every video on this channel works the same way. Real numbers, no sponsors, no pool store upsell. If that is useful to you, subscribe. This channel reads the water, not the marketing.